Hello, hello, hello. Coming to you in the middle of a very hot stretch of days here in Richmond to talk about everyone's favorite women's pre-professional soccer team, the Richmond Ivy. I'm here with my co-host, Allan. Allan, how are you doing now that it feels like summer has truly begun?
Doing really well. Going outside makes me want to die, though, which is not ideal. Probably not for playing either on Wednesday, although I didn't look at the weather if it's going to be. I think it's cooling down slightly, which you would have to hope because it's bad out there right now.
Brutal. We're thinking of everybody who does have to be playing sports outside at a time like this. Our thoughts are with you. And I guess maybe it is just as bad for us who have to be outside supporting them at home games. Also not fun. Everyone remember to hydrate, drink your water anytime you're out supporting one of our lovely Richmond soccer teams. So we're coming at you after the first two matches of the Ivy season, one non-league, one league. We got one made-up cup and one league match under our belt. So before we get into those matches, I did want to cover a couple sort of administrative notes now that the season is underway. We've done a little more research. We have found out that two Richmond United players, so not players, in like the quote unquote senior Ivy squad, were called up to youth national team camps this spring. Notice that on social media because they were not announced for the Ivy and had not previously played for the team, at least for a season. They were not announced by the club. But Emerson Moore and Lila Charlotte were both called up to camps this spring. Emerson was called up to the U18 camp, but that was a domestic camp. There were no matches, so good for her for getting the call up, though. That's still something. And then Lila was called up to the U15 national team. They played one match. They played England, won 4-0, and Lila played 76 minutes and picked up 2 assists in that game. So really strong showing for Lila and really exciting since we got to see her for a couple minutes against Lancaster Inferno in the first match of the season. So that's pretty cool that we do have some national team experience in the mix. They just might be underage with that experience.
Still good. I mean, listen, against England and also picking up 2 assists is not too shabby for anybody. So that is a significant thing we can hold on to for the Ivy right now.
Bringing that experience, that international experience. We got a couple. That brings us up to, I think, four players in this squad that have some level of national team experience, not just the U.S. So,
yeah,
pretty cool.
Pretty cool. And hopefully more-ish once we get everybody called up.
Right.
Everybody's back.
Right. Let's hope. And hopefully this will continue as these as these players and these camps continue throughout the year, that we'll see the same faces continuing to impress. Speaking of players, we had 3 new players announced after we did our preseason episode. 2 of them were on the roster that I was handed in the press box. They had not yet been announced on social media. They actually have not still been announced on social media. So I guess only noticeable to the discerning eye. But they are 2 of them that featured against Inferno are Taylor Shell and Ava Marvin. Taylor Shell graduated from the University of Miami in December of 2023, but since then has continued to play and played for the Minnesota Aurora in 2024, but unfortunately tore her ACL during that season. So was out for a considerable period, and then this past summer played for the Courage U23 in 2025, which is great because they made the final of the W League. That's
pretty incredible, honestly. Like anybody coming up from a second ACL injury is not how you want to start your career, and your very, very early 20s, which she still is very much in. But again, somebody who can still pull it together for being a part of the best W League team, and then adding her into our squad after that is not insignificant. So I think that's going to be something to watch out for.
Yeah, exactly. Some seniority, some experience in big matches. So we've already seen her pick up an assist. I thought she looked very good against the Inferno. So in her sort of cameo near the end. So good to see her yeah, hopefully more to come from Taylor Shell. The other name that featured against the Inferno was Ava Marvin. She's a rising senior at William and Mary. And I thought she looked great. In 2025, she made 16 appearances. 4 of those were starts. She's a defender. We saw her play at outside back. We have no idea what these players actually play for college. But she looked great. So that's a great addition to see. And then lastly, one new name that popped up in the bench on Instagram away at BDA was Georgia Skelton. She's a defender. She's a rising junior at Ole Miss. She did not play, unfortunately, this fall due to injury. But she's from Mechanicsville. She played for Richmond United, and she did play for the Charlottesville Blues in 2024. So good to see some of these new players continuing to have W League experience, and also showing that even if players are not playing for the Ivy, players from Richmond are interested in getting involved in W League wherever they can find it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, again, all 3 are things that we don't really know too much about. Again, other than Taylor, who, obviously we have some things to look back on, but the other 2, Ava does not start regularly for William & Mary in the program. And we have Georgia Skelton, again, not somebody that we really know a whole lot about. So they are unknowns, but again, both of the latter 2 looked good. So eye test wise, these are players that look like they could make an impact for us. And honestly, at the end of the day, that's what matters. Yep. So even if they're not, lighting it up in everything else that they're doing, if they can do something for the Ivy for the short time that they are here, we're ready for it. We're happy for it.
That's all we ask. All right, moving right along to our Lancaster Inferno made-up cup, our familiar foe from
that we won.
That we finally beat them in a match that matters, I guess, because I think we beat them at home at City Stadium, but we were already so far out of the playoff spots that it was completely irrelevant. But I guess there was a cup on the line, so you're never going to be mad picking up a win, getting to wave the trophy around.
Exactly.
So we did see our first starting 11 of the year. And again, since there was so much change in the squad, we weren't necessarily entirely sure what we were looking at. I think the biggest question mark was going to be which of our strong attacking lineup was going to feature. And Rob had landed for the first match on Emerson Moore playing centrally with Macy Lindell and Jasmine Jackson off her shoulders. So what did you think of these 3, Allan?
It's so, because we literally had just talked about it like the night before. And then my 4th note is literally Macy picking up right where she left off, because it was just her darting down completely, sending balls in exactly like we talked about last season, exactly how we thought she was going to be in here. And again, was able to score, like getting on the score sheet. So like, I was impressed with what I saw with Emerson and Jackson, like notable stuff. Like they were decent. They played decently. It was hard because sometimes the Ivy did have a little bit of a hard time at the very beginning, kind of getting it out of their own end and playing up and like putting up the tempo. So it was kind of hard to tell like what they were doing, because really they were just walking and then running and then walking again. But with Macy, again, it's just that thing of like, she just slotted right back into where she started, which is so crucial for a team that only sees each other for like a month every year. So it's just, if we can have players that can come back and then slot directly back into what they're doing, it helps us so much. Right. Otherwise that was a problem we had last year. It was a problem we talked about at the preseason pod of like talking about a thing that we would have this year is like people coming back in again. We're having to figure out the whole group dynamic thing, and it just kind of it doesn't work. Yeah. If we have players like that can come in and just slot back in exactly where they need to be, it's perfect. So I was biased, but I was very, very impressed with Macy's work yet again.
Agree. Yeah, I thought all 3 looked great. I think you're picking between, you've got Tucker and Woodson on the bench. So for them to not start, the question always becomes, is this like an availability thing? Were they not able to leave college at a certain time? Oh, also news that I just saw on Instagram, Olivia Woodson has completed a transfer to UCLA in the off season. So she's no longer playing for Auburn. She won't be playing for Auburn in the fall, but now she's at UCLA. So that's exciting for her. So that happened in between that happened 4 days ago. So that was like the morning of the VDA match. So exciting news. Sorry. I just remembered that. My apologies. But yeah, I thought interesting to see Jasmine Jackson also start. That wasn't necessarily a name we thought, but I thought she looked bright. She was making a nuisance of herself, and that's the best you can ask for.
Yeah.
The other notable thing for me was our new center back pairing, Molly Witterett and Kate Wire. We obviously didn't know who would be our center backs, and I was extremely impressed with how they looked. And hopefully, maybe that's the preferred duo. Unfortunately, Witterett was not available in the next match. So I guess we're starting to see how the combinations, depending on player availability, will form. We'll run through the first half quickly. Macy Landell, as mentioned, 16th minute, scores a goal, off an assist from Kira McCloskey, who was playing in the attacking midfield role. Yeah, as Allan said, picking right up where she left off. But otherwise, not the most clinical half from the Ivy. So there wasn't too much else to remark on there.
Yeah, I wrote still very disjointed. We still just kind of had those problems that we were talking about, the teething things of the squad and everything. So same deal. But second half, very different.
Yes, second half, things really settled in. There were a couple substitutions, but the one I wanted to note is that we made a keeper change at the half. Reminder, this match, because it was not official, meant that there were no technical substitution rules, so we could make as many changes as we'd like. Lancaster really leaned into that and was basically just change it, putting
like
on
hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, it was absurd. The Ivy stuck more to traditional substitution rules, just obviously more changes than you'd normally be allowed. But a goalkeeper change to bring on a high schooler is a pretty big call in the second half. And I thought Audra Schultz, although 2 goals were conceded, one of them was more challenging to deal with. But I thought she looked very good with the ball at her feet. She looked very composed, which is something obviously modern goalkeepers, that's what we're looking for in a modern goalkeeper, is how well they can play the ball with their feet, play the ball out of the back. And I was very impressed at her composure for being, I don't know, a teenager.
I was really impressed with, her technical skill, like, honestly. And I even had to leave like a little bit later on. And so I was watching some of the section of it just on my phone. But it really was like really impressive. Like, she was doing a really good job. Like, again, conceding is never a great thing, but like her technical qualities were kind of all there, which is like, again, the classic cop out of like goalkeepers of like, no, I promise you they're really good. Like, they got scored on, but they're really good. I promise you. It's like, but she is really good.
Yeah. And if she's this good now, then obviously you're going to really hope that this is a floor and that the ceiling is many, 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 many miles above. But the Ivy were looking a lot better going forward. 56th minute looked to be an Ivy goal, but McCloskey had the ball in the net, but it was called off. But still, good to see some cohesion going forward. But unfortunately, in the same minute that the Ivy goal was called off, Lancaster used that opportunity to get the ball forward and equalized. From the press box, it looked difficult. I know I heard pushback from that she might have had to do better, but from my angle, it was a screamer from outside the box.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looked like. So it is what it is. But we bring it back. 10 minutes later, we bring it back with Woodson in the 66th minute with more assisting. Really nicely done, honestly. Just really clinical work from her. Like, again, our numbers when we were talking about her in the preseason pod of being like, is she going to be as clinical as she was in that breakout season that she had with Auburn? And like, she was making headlines and then she really kind of receded a little bit, but like seeing her on the score sheet and on a very clinical goal, I think is like an extremely good sign for the season for her, for the Ivy.
Agreed. Because there was a lot of, one of the big notes I had was throughout the match and honestly into the second match as well. A lot of speculative shooting from across the team, like a lot of shots from distance that were completely unproductive, that never put the keeper under pressure. The keeper was just grabbing them out of the air. And so the Landell goal, the Woodson goal, similarly, the Tucker goal that we'll get to, the Ivy look was actually clinical, not speculatively shooting from outside the 18-yard box, but actually connecting passes and being clinical with their shooting.
Yeah. I would honestly just say that's exactly the same read I would say. So
yeah. And I will say, I also want to note Emerson Moore, I was very impressed with her center forward play. She took a couple shots, but she was so good. She's 17 years old. Like she physically, you would not guess that looking at her. She is tall. She's physical. She's very good with the ball at her feet. And her hold up play was very, very impressive. And this was one example. The Woodson goal was an example of great center forward play, laying it off to your winger who's crashing for them to slot away. And so, yeah, she looks far older and more composed than 17 out there, which I think is a big reason that she's been she started the first two matches, even when the players around her have changed. You want to take us into? Oh no, you left by the Tucker goal. You missed.
I left. The Tucker goal was like right when I was leaving, which is just shows you never leave before it's happening. So just goes to show you. So I did not, and I didn't even get to see it because I was gonna open it up, and I was like, I'm not gonna miss anything. It'll be fine. And then just right as I'm leaving.
A beautiful goal. Sania also picking up where she left off because she scores beautiful goals.
She really does. She really does.
And this was Taylor Shell showed off her dribbling skills as well, where she was the one who kind of collected the ball on the outside of the box, got past a player or two, laid it off to Sania, who then took a touch and just absolutely whacked it into the top netting. Really, really beautiful. And again, it was, not as clinical as the, Landell and Woodson from a like tight passing and, hitting it super accurately kind of thing. But she was actually in a good scoring position, which is why she was able to put the ball where she wanted it to, which was past the keeper and into the goal, as opposed to whacking that from like 10 yards outside the 18-yard box just because you don't have a defender in front of you. So it also goes to show that when the right player is in the right position, that you can take those shots. We don't need to be, doing tiki-taka every time, but you also, you have to pick your moment when you're going to hit it from distance. And Tucker did exactly that. It was beautiful. It felt comfortable at that point, 3-1 up. Mm-hmm. The kicker's watch party was starting right after the final whistle. And so when you have a trophy presentation to get to, it felt like, okay, great. We're not going to go to penalties and have to figure out how to have both. Yeah, that was the fear when it was 1-1 was, oh goodness. And even at 2-1 was like, oh, we've boxed ourselves into a corner here where we have a watch party starting right after this match ends. But 3-1 up, felt comfortable. But then, of course, I think the foot got taken off the gas a little bit. Lancaster nicked a second in the 91st. They stopped showing the time on the scoreboard, so we guessed that it was roughly the 91st, but the ref called match super quickly after that. So luckily our fingernails didn't need to be bitten too much. So it felt like a 3-1 win, ultimately 3-2. But good to see our players back on the score sheet, even if this match doesn't particularly matter in the grand scheme of things. It was good to get some minutes in the legs and avoid penalties, because that's how we lost our made-up cup last season.
Which we'll never forget. Yeah, we'll never forget this one because we won it. So etched in forever.
Right. It's etched into Richmond Ivy lore for all time.
Kicking it forward.
I think one other note is we mentioned in our preseason pod the sort of question marks around our central midfielders, especially with Jill Flamia not making an appearance yet. Mm-hmm. We did see Gianna Shoprek, who has played center back as a defensive mid. But for the most part, they were bypass. I wouldn't say they were looking to play through the midfield, and that might be a function of the fact that that's not necessarily where our strongest players are. They were really looking to move the ball up the wings, or the center backs were playing a lot of long direct balls over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Like both of them were, and the outside backs were doing the same thing, kind of bypassing the midfield altogether in a lot of cases. So I thought that was very effective, and I was really impressed with how precise those balls from Witterick and Wire were. So really great to have in their arsenal, especially since we have such pacey wingers that in many cases can beat their player on the wing, because we're about to get into what happens when when the other team is really good at soccer.
Yeah. When they've been playing together for a long time and are really well drilled and all that good stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
And one final note: 5,300 attendance. Love to see it. Close, a sellout of 6,000, so a little off a full sellout, but hopefully we'll hit that number at some point. But great start to the season, attendance-wise. Any final thoughts on that first match, Allan?
I mean, like I said, it's always nice to start the season, quote unquote, start the season with a win, and just seeing them play together really well. Like seeing a lot of these names we had question marks on, kind of getting to see a little bit more of them. Like it was a really good discovery game. Like I think that this midweek will be interesting again because we're playing the same people, but also maybe we have more people starting now, and we'll see how that ends up. And did we learn anything from the last game? So I'm not expecting it to be like a 180, or I'm not expecting like a lot, but I am expecting maybe a little bit of a progression, which we'll see, because we kind of honestly can't get any worse. I'm knocking on wood. I'm knocking on wood right now, because it could definitely get a lot worse. It can definitely get so much worse. But
but the hope is that
the hope is there.
We've learned something from this.
One last thing I am going to say. This is a personal point, and honestly, it's a personal point of pride for me. So I spent my little part of it in the actual Ivy supporter section, because I never get to be there, because usually we're up in the booth. So I was in the supporter section, and because really, if you come to an Ivy game, especially if you come to a fake cup Ivy game, a lot of the time you sort of have your run of like the drums and everything at that point. So I started a thing that we do in Atlanta that I just have literally been saying that we should be doing the entire time, because it's an incredible like crowd movement thing, which is a Viking clap chant to like RVA that goes to it. I got the whole thing, in not just like the supporter section, but like everybody in that section and like another one aside from it to do it. And you can hear it on the broadcast. So like if you are doing it, listen, I'm just saying we continue. But if you do that kind of thing, it is pretty effective. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's really cringy at the same time. I get it. I know it. But at the same time, the results work. Like it just works. So point of pride there, but we'll see how it goes.
So we'll watch this space. Watch the supporter section going forward. And that's another note. If you haven't gotten involved in the supporter section, if you're someone who's been coming to games but you haven't yet necessarily made your way over to Section O, the Ivy games are a great time to do that. They're a little quieter. They're a little more chill. You can experiment. You can bring out some songs that you'd like to test in a lower stakes proving ground, because there's just fewer people there. So you can kind of get everyone on the same page more easily. So it's definitely a great opportunity to check out the supporter section vibes if you haven't done that yet, because
absolutely
some fun stuff happens in there.
But going on to our VDA game.
Yes. So I did rewatch that this afternoon. So I'm coming off of having far too much knowledge about what happened in this match. So I'm trying to not get too deep in the weeds. So I'll run through it, because I know Sports Engine Play is extremely annoying to navigate. The quality of the stream is very low, and I don't think anyone has posted highlights from this match. So I am planning to go through and try to clip a couple things from it just to repost, because there were some nice moments, a handful, just so that folks who don't have the bandwidth to rewatch the entire match can still see what's going on. But I'll try to run through in a little more detail what happened in this match. So match 2, Virginia Development Academy. We're up in Manassas. Couple changes to the starting 11, but you can see that on Instagram. The big one is Kenley Campbell moved back to center back. Ella Stanley came in the holding midfield role next to Gianna Shoprek, and Ava Lozada came in for Ava Marvin at the left back position. Also, Macy Lindell to the bench. Olivia Woodson pulled up. So slightly, mostly similar with a few key changes. That had to do with player availability for the most part. Molly Witterich and Ava Marvin were not in the team at all. So there we go with our availability again. But the Ivy went down 1-0 in the second minute after a bad back pass from Ella Stanley. It happens, but she was, collected the ball, tried to play it back to one of the center backs, and played it straight to the feet of the VDA striker, who beats the center back easily and just slots it into the corner. So not the way you want to start a match, but what at least was good to see was the team started to walk back for kickoff, and Woodson pulled them all in to a huddle, and they went straight into a huddle right after conceding that goal. And they ended up not conceding again until the very last, until the very end of the first half. So I think that was good. That was obviously a mistake that led to that goal, and VDA is super clinical, but it was good to see that kind of mentality from Woodson to say, all right, let's get back on the same page and let's, restart going forward. But unfortunately, VDA, as feared, is just very, 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 very good. For the most part, the Ivy just really couldn't get on the ball. VDA were extremely good in possession, focused on maintaining possession. Anytime a Ivy player had the ball, they were forcing turnovers, shutting down passing lanes. It was an extremely disciplined and organized performance, just from minute 1 to minute 90. The only lapse in concentration was the Ivy goal. So it was nice to see them take advantage of that. But for the most part, there was just very little to remark on, which is a bit unfortunate. But again, we'll have another go at them on Wednesday. There were a couple chances, but for the most part, pretty much nothing else in the first half until the Ivy goal, which was in the... Actually, no. Marks had one save in the 20th minute, which was like a point-blank stop. She's very, very lucky that there was not a VDA player in the 6-yard box to put it home, and instead, one of the Ivy players was able to clear it, but she did make one very good save. For the most part, I guess lucky they didn't actually have a ton of quality opportunities outside of their goals. So they converted basically every quality opportunity they had. In the 32nd minute is when the Ivy scored their one and only goal of the game. The attack started with Moore, who dropped back in past the midfield line to collect a bouncing ball. Woodson had kind of pulled inside. So Ella Stanley, who was playing in the holding midfield role, was actually completely open in the right midfield, like along the sideline. No one in front of her. And Moore plays it over the top to Ella Stanley. And that took 4 VDA players out of the game with one pass over the top. And Ella just ran onto it. And she pretty much, she chased it down and put a bouncing cross into the 18. Woodson, who was central, really tried to sort of tap it in with the outside of her foot, but the keeper got low, made the stop. But the rebound, Jasmine Jackson was crashing the goal from the left towards the near post, and was able to smash in the rebound from the keeper's save. So it was a well-constructed goal, but again, it was like the one lapse in concentration from VDA in terms of their defensive organization, where Stanley just was completely open on the wing, because for basically the entire rest of the match, the Ivy they'd maybe beat a player once or twice in the midfield, like one nice turn, but then there would be no one to pass it to. And unfortunately for us, our fullbacks were getting cooked the entire match long. It wasn't pretty. But it was a very, very well-constructed goal from the Ivy in the 32nd minute. And then they could have gone ahead. 38th minute, Emerson Moore hits the crossbar from right outside the box. But there was no one in the 6 to finish the rebound there. And that was basically the only other shot on target, the only meaningful shot on target for the entire game. And in the 44th minute, VDA went ahead 2-1. Just some clean passing on the left. One center back was taken out by the through ball. The other center back was beaten on the dribble into the 6, crossed to the far post to a completely open player in the 6, and who finishes the ball. So just some really clean, tight passing, both clean passing beating players and individual one-on-ones beating players. Players getting beaten all over the pitch. It happens. When you're playing a team who's basically better than you in every single position, it happens.
Yeah. Yep.
In the second half, both of the fullbacks then came out. Shea Doherty and Ava Lozada. Again, it's not like they were particularly bad. They just didn't have the pace and didn't have the one-on-one defensive. But Sophie Stroud and Naomi Knight came in to replace them, but the story did not change. It was obviously smart because legs-wise, you needed to get fresh legs in there, but there was no change in terms of effectiveness. It was just starting again with fresh players, because in the 46th minute, VDA scores their third to go up 3-1. So a goal on either side of halftime. The player went on a long run down the far left sideline. No one can keep up. Naomi Knight is completely burned and just pokes the ball across. The striker's crashing. Doesn't have to do much to put it in. The 67th minute, very similar story. Dribble down the left wing, completely torches our left back or right back. Chipped to the open player at the top of the 18. She puts it past Logan Marks again. So basically 2 goals, the exact same of just pacey, dribbly player down the wing, cutting it across, easy finish. Ivy makes some subs. And then the 84th minute, VDA scores their 5th goal of the game, which is also similar, this time on the right wing for them. So torching our left back, cutting it back, top of the 6. The player was marked this time, but didn't change the story. Simple tap in to the near post. So 3 goals in the second half, basically all scored the exact same way, which is just beating the player for pace and technicality on the wing, and somebody in the box there clinically putting it away. I think the one thing that we did not know, you would not know unless you watched the match, is the Ivy actually got a penalty in the 90th minute. And I fear I had concerns about penalties that I brought up, in the fact that basically no one in our team has any experience taking penalties, at least in the last season. Macy's on the dribble in the box, shoulder to shoulder contact. I mean, it wasn't anything dirty. It was just a strong shoulder to shoulder challenge, and Macy goes down. Sunia immediately steps up to take it, which is great. Love to see the confidence. But unfortunately, she hits it low to the left post, and the keeper just gets down, pushes it wide. So still, it's great. The keeper had to dive the right way, but not great to have that opportunity right there at the end to at least get a second consolation goal, and for it to... And the whole thing was over so quickly. The whole thing was over in less than a minute. And so something you always see is potentially players maybe they don't take time to celebrate, and maybe they don't take time to actually settle themselves to take a penalty as well. Again, it happened so quickly. Slow down. They're not going to end the game before you take the penalty.
Yeah.
And it didn't look like a particularly challenging save, to be honest. So not great, because obviously that one had no impact on the outcome of the game. But in the case where it does have an impact, we wouldn't want to see that again. So hopefully they do some penalty training.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So that was a speed run. And it will be so interesting, as Allan said, this Wednesday match. It's an incredibly quick turnaround to now play them at home. Mm-hmm. Because what might we see? What lessons might we learn?
Yeah. I mean, it's just It is just a really well-drilled team. We saw this a bit last year. And obviously we're seeing it again, but the difference between a team that actually has the ability to play with each other for longer and able to develop a roster is night and day.
Mhm.
And it is us, rattling our, the edges of the cradle here being like unfair, but like it is, we are kind of a little bit unbalanced in that sense. Like I said, there's not really a good fix. It's not like we can take college players out and be like, it's time for Ivy camp in like January or whatever. And we can't kind of do that. So we have to figure out other smarter ways because other teams also have this problem and they still do okay.
Yeah.
So even though VDA is a really great team, there are teams that have our exact situation and yet are doing well with it. So
yeah,
it's just something we're going to have to figure out as a team. Yes, we can complain about it. I give you the green light to complain about it whenever you want, but it is still something that we're still going to have to figure this out. Like look at my crook. Because
it's
otherwise
sink or swim in this league.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I will say from our squad perspective, the one thing I will say, even though there were 2 goals in the first half and there were 3 goals in the second, the main difference to me was how clinical VDA was in the box. And I do think a lot of the central players played a lot more minutes. Again, the fullbacks each played 45, so they had pretty much the same level of freshness. And I do think there's something to the fact that our center backs were a little bit more gassed by the end of the match and maybe weren't able to be marking as well and defending as cleanly as they were in the first half. I'd probably say that was the biggest difference in terms of the goals conceded. But for the most part, the attack did not fall off. Landell and Tucker came in for Woodson and Jackson. Taylor Shell came in. Apologies, we had a slight buffering issue, but hopefully this just means that against most of the rest of the teams in the league, the quality of our attack will not be changing depending on the subs, which is one of the biggest problems most teams have.
Yes, which looking forward to our upcoming matches. Obviously, we have VDA this Wednesday's Women's Empowerment Day. You are dressing as your own hero. I am going to go ahead and bet we are going to see a lot of little girls in Trinity Rodman kits, which as they should. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that one. It will be interesting to see it because I'll be very interested to see who they pick.
Yeah.
Obviously if you're a kid, it's like, obviously it's a soccer player is my hero. So I'm going to dress as that. So I am very interested to see what we see from around there. I bet it will be adorable, but it will also be very, very cool.
Yeah.
To see all that.
Do you know who you're dressing as, Allan?
I literally wear my wife's white coat and I could be like, she's my hero. And like, I could parade around as a doctor and have thing for a brief moment in my life.
Yeah.
Of empowerment. But what are you gonna dress as your women's empowerment?
I think I'll do my old reliable, which is my Abby Wambach jersey from the 2011 World Cup that I bought when I was like, what year was that? 2012, something like that.
Yeah, and there you go.
It still fits, okay.
All right.
I know some people didn't like those jerseys. They were like the black and white ones that had kind of that weird V-neck with the collar.
Oh,
yeah, and like the red and black like piping on it. But I loved those jerseys. I thought those were great.
Yeah, they're fun. So excited to see it.
Yeah. So Abby Wambach.
Yes.
Streets will never forget.
Streets will never forget. And we are versus VDA. So quick turnaround to go. Remix.
Exactly.
Here we go. Right back in there. Right back in it. Maybe they'll forget how they played. Maybe they will, or maybe we'll have been better. I don't know. And going along with that, right after that one, May 23rd. Again, guys, this league goes by quick. This league is rapid fire. So we will immediately turn that around, just like this is middle school soccer, and we are just going to go straight into the next game on the weekend, and we are going into Charlottesville. It's an away against Charlottesville. I'm still considering whether this is going to be a match that I attend. Because
come on, Allan.
Yeah, I know, and I'm like, what do I got going on Saturday? I can make this. So maybe we will be there. at Charlottesville High School against the Charlottesville Blues on beautiful Memorial Day weekend in Charlottesville, which the high will be 65. So it will be a little nippier, but honestly, probably good for everybody in that sense. So come on out and support. It's a very, very easy away trip. It's maybe the easiest away trip that anybody in the Kickers Ivy organization will ever have, because we do not have people that are this close. Charlottesville is an hour away. So it's as close as we get.
Make a day of it. I know that I will be with some other folks. Hit a winery. If you're under 21, hit the cute thrift stores on the Charlottesville Pedestrian Mall. There's plenty to do out there. It's the first day of a 3-day weekend. Come on.
Come on. What do you got? What do you got going on? You don't got anything else going on. Come on.
You got nothing going on. The weather's not going to be that good. So don't tell me you got to go to the pool. Okay. The weather's not going to be good enough for that.
It's not. And it's going to be raining in Richmond, but it's not going to be raining in Charlottesville. So there you go.
There you go.
There you go. And so the intel that we have from camp, which is very, very good on this one, is that the attendance expectations for players this season is going to be much more enforced, which is good because that was our big problem last time. There literally may be a situation in which we see a roster that we do not know existed until we get it. So it's very possible that we walk into one of those situations. Honestly, great. Because maybe we'll see some players and maybe they will ball out. And that is what we want to see. Because at this point, we just need secret weapon type stuff. That's sort of the idea from this. And finishing up, you want to take us home with our last little points here?
I think we just are hoping that we're going to see continued form from our attackers. Because as of now, we've got a goal from the three big names of Landell, Woodson, and Tucker, and Jasmine Jackson. So it's great that all four of the folks that we've been seeing start have all gotten goals in the first two matches of the season. And Emerson Moore has already picked up an assist. And Woodson kind of had an assist. Like, her shot resulted in the deflection that Jackson scored off of. So not really an assist, but kind of.
We'll take it.
So that's really good to see, because obviously that's what you have to build on. If your attackers aren't scoring, you're in a lot of trouble. Our attackers are scoring, so we have to hope that that's what we're just going to continue to see. So regardless of what's happening elsewhere on the pitch, if our attackers can continue scoring, maybe it'll just be a war of attrition. We'll outscore them.
Maybe we can only hope.
Yep. Yeah. So that's our show today. I know we're trying to get through these matches a little more quickly than maybe we did last season, because y'all are busy people. We want you to listen to the episode, try to balance covering the matches you might not have been able to see while when the Ivy play away, with not talking too much about the ones we already got to see at City Stadium. So hopefully this was a little easier than last season, and another busy week is ahead of us. It would be great to not be have two losses to start the league season. So the game against Charlottesville will absolutely be a huge one to try to get a result to start the season.
Please. Maybe. So yeah, we'll see.
So that's why you got to come to it. You don't want to miss the Ivy's first possible result this season. Makes it all the more important.
Manifesting. Here we go, everybody.
Manifesting. All right, that is our show. We will see you the middle of next week. It'll be a little bit longer. After Memorial Day always throws the schedule off, so we will come recap our next two matches for you the middle of next week. Until then, be easy and be safe.